President-elect Emmerson Mnangagwa said this was a hard-fought election, the most competitive we have ever seen. And he is right. He won 50.8% of the vote. Nelson Chamisa got 44.3%. Let's just go through some of the highlights. First, this was close. Really close. How close? Check out Manicaland. Chamisa got 296,429. ED got 292,938. So Chamisa won there by just 3,491 votes. In 2013, Mugabe beat Tsvangirai by over 77,000 votes in Manicaland. Second, you've got to hand it to Nelson. This is the first time that an opposition leader has secured over 2 million votes. Tsvangirai never went over 1.2 million votes. Chamisa did over 80 rallies. He inspired young voters to get involved. He managed to get votes from those outside the traditional voters base of the MDC. He made inroads in the rural areas. Third, we have to talk about the things that went wrong for the MDC. Did the divisions in the opposition have an impact? Well, yes and no. Look at it this way. In terms of the presidential vote, ZANU-PF got some 45,000 votes. Not much of a difference. Remember, ED got about 300,000 more votes than Chamisa. But in the parliamentary vote, this is what happened. 12. That's the number of constituencies where the opposition lost due to a split vote. ZANU-PF candidates there had less than the combined opposition vote. We even saw ZANU-PF winning a seat in Bulawayo because of this. I mean, this was unthinkable. If the MDC had won those 12 seats, ZANU-PF would not have the two-thirds majority they now have. With the two-thirds majority, ZANU-PF can change the constitution if they want. Douglas Monzora was honest. He admits that this is one of the lessons that the MDC alliance took away here.
Well, I think the split was regrettable, and we should have now managed it better. It is common cause that we had a split with Dr. Kupe and company. It's something that we should have avoided.
The MDC will be happy with one thing though. They got more seats than they did in 2013. They managed to win back Harare, but they know they could have done much better. And another highlight is how ED managed to get a lot more urban votes. He managed to secure the ZANU-PF base, but also managed to make inroads into the urban areas. He got more votes in Harare than Mugabe did. Over 207,000 votes. He even managed to get 60,000 votes in Bulawayo. That's double the number that Mugabe got in 2013. And one last highlight. This is not a country for independence. No. Zimbabwe just doesn't have time for independence or anyone who isn't MDC or ZANU-PF. Only one independent candidate won. The NPF made a lot of noise, but they just got one seat. In the presidential elections, all the other 21 candidates failed to get a combined 5% of the vote. With all their innovative campaigns, no independent candidate won a council seat in Harare. There's just no middle ground. And this is where President-elect Emmerson Mnangagwa's job just begins. To be that one guy in the middle, to unite the people. This election was supposed to be the one that ends Zimbabwe's isolation. It was supposed to be the bridge from the Mugabe era to a new era of democracy and freedom. The campaigns were great and peaceful. Voting was smooth. But things went bad. Real bad. First, the army was deployed to the streets to deal with protesters. Yes, we all saw what happened. The protesters were violent. They burned cars and smashed shops. What we don't know is why the army intervention was needed. At least 6 lives were lost that day. And this is hard to get. Since November, ED has worked overtime to reshape our international image. He's been to investment conferences. He's done interviews. He's changed our laws to make them more investor-friendly. He's allowed international observers in. The opposition was free to campaign everywhere. There was no widespread violence. But in just one day, last Wednesday, all of this good work was destroyed. Just like that. And while we were still trying to figure that one out, we saw police invading a press conference last Friday. This went down live on international TV. We have to ask, what is going on? After all the careful work ED has done to repair Zimbabwe's image, why would the system just score an own goal in the very last minute of the game? Just a few weeks back, the world press was talking about how free this election was. They were talking about investment. Now they're wondering if Zim is really open for business. The observers here are talking more about the killings of civilians than the election which they came here for. We've got so many questions, and our leaders need to answer us. Our country is divided. One half of the country voted for ED, the other half didn't. So what must happen now? We look to our leaders for leadership, and this past weekend, ED came out saying the right things. I'm going to be president of all Zimbabweans, those who voted for me and those who didn't. I'm going to keep my promises to those who voted for me. I'm going to prove myself to those who voted against me. Great words. This is exactly what he needed to say. What's more important is not just what he says, but what he does. We are all angry at each other. We are angry at our politicians. Urban voters are angry at rural voters. Rural voters are angry with urban voters. Chamisa supporters are angry with ED supporters. Some ED voters are angry with Chamisa supporters. But, as hard as it may look right now, we still have a chance to turn this thing around. And it starts with our leaders being more mature as we've seen over recent months. For the president, first stop is the cabinet. Dear Mr. President-elect, we have no time. You said you wanted your own mandate to set up your own government. Well, here it is. We deserve a cabinet that restores confidence. We need guys who know their stuff, not just people who are there because they are loyal. Yes, you'll still need a lot of comrades to keep the ship steady. But this weekend, we heard you say this. The time for politics is now behind us. Now begins the time for work and progress. That's what we need to see. Patrick Chinamasa lost in Makoni Central. It looks like the people of Rusape didn't like his bins very much. Terence Mukube lost in Harare East. Petronola Kagonye and Chengadube lost too. Chris Muchangwa lost. We haven't heard from him yet. Maybe he's still consulting the dictionary for a response. So hey, this is your chance, Mr. President. A chance to try something new. This is an opportunity to seek out the best, no matter where they are in the world, no matter their ages. There's a reason to be hopeful. We saw some investment coming into Zim over the last few months. We saw infrastructure developments such as road repairs. This showed us potential. Now let's have hope that we see all of this happening a lot faster and in a lot more places. There's a lot of work to do. We need to go back to the bread and butter issues. Other nations have seen worse days, but still came out strong. There's no reason why we can't do the same. And in our small ways and in our small spaces, let's find out what each of us can do to make things better for the next guy, brick by brick. We have no choice but to believe in ourselves and in a better Zimbabwe. We have overcome worse as people. It's time to get up and do it all over again. And in closing, I leave you with this artwork from my good friend Barry Lungu. I asked Barry, what inspired this piece? He said the pride of being Zimbabwean, marching forward against all odds. There's more that unites us than that divides us. We can despair, but we can also have hope.